My name is Martin Boddy. I'm Pro Vice-Chancellor in the Vice-Chancellor's executive team, and one of my roles, as Alistair said, has been I've been really the link between university management and the requirements that we've seen in relation to the workload model, and more generally the requirements for a workload model as seen by the academic side of the university, and the technical team, the clever techies who've been developing or developed the new system under Bill Ferrier's guidance, and Bill will be following me in a moment. So can I just welcome you all on behalf of the university to Bristol. For some of you have been here before, obviously, to UWE, others haven't. The world of workload models 3 or 4 years ago, it used to be a very lonely world, but now there's obviously much greater interest, so welcome to our world. In case you were wondering, one or two people have asked me, this is the conference centre here is one of 2 buildings the same size that we acquired from Hewlett-Packard, along with 80 acres of their estate, which we're busily planning for, and in fact at the far end we're starting off the development of a new student village, so there's lots happening here apart from the introduction of workload models. But what I wanted to do really was just, this is the first of 3 quick introductions to where we are and how we got here with the UWE workload model. I'll return later in the day to talk specifically about transferability and where we've got to with that. We're throwing quite a lot of information at you this morning, but there will be an opportunity before lunch to break out and have a discussion and gather your thoughts and your questions for a more interactive session later in the day. So, where is UWE now? We started a project way back in 2009 to develop the UWE-wide academic workload model. Implemented back then a common university-wide model. It went live in 2010-11, so it's been operational for 3 years. We're now in effect in the 4th year of having a university-wide model. The original model was spreadsheet-based. Like many of you have got versions of this. It was spreadsheet-based, it was built in-house, and essentially it did, or it does, 3 things. It generates workload associated with different activities. It then allows academic managers to allocate that workload to academic staff, and it's also a system for recording and then communicating that allocation to staff. And this is a slide which I've pinched from Bill's presentation. He always smiles wryly when I put this sort of up, but you'll see this again, but it just sort of captures that process. So a set of activities, there's then workload generated. Workload bundles is the funny word we use for our local currency. It could be workload credits, it could be hours. There are reasons why we don't use hours. It could be named after the Vice-Chancellor's dog or some local sort of units. We have Bristol pounds in Bristol. But, and then that workload is allocated to staff, different types of staff, academic staff, researchers, associate lecturers, hourly paid lecturers, and so forth. So that's the essence of the model. Just a word on generating the resources that are needed for different activities. The teaching resource is generated by a fiendish formula. It's based on the obvious things like student numbers, credit level, number of weeks, and so forth. And we've split it into delivery assessment and management roles like program leader, for example. For other management roles and for other activities, we set a tariff. So there's a sort of table of tariffs for management roles, for the postgraduate research student supervisory team, for placements, for field trips. We've tried not to get too granular, to keep it at headlines. A word more about that in a second. External and also internally funded research, knowledge exchange activities, and so forth. We convert the time into the workload currency. As I said, our currency is bundles, and we operate to a full workload of 550 bundles. Any of the, I'm not going to go into all the details behind this because that would take about 3 days, but you'll get the general idea. So that was the old system. What we've moved on to now is that over the last year or so, we've developed this thing called WAMS. It's a great acronym, and it's taken me about a year and a half to remember exactly what it stands for, which is the Academic Workload Management System. And that has replaced the spreadsheet for the current academic year. So starting last August, or before that, because we had to put the data into it earlier, we've been operating with the new WAMS web-based system. And this was an internal UWE project. Like many of you, we looked at the various systems that are out there and decided we thought we could do better. And we think we have, as an aside. But it was an internal UWE project located within IT services. The model stayed essentially the same as it had been with the spreadsheet. So it does workload allocation and management, and we've also built in track data generation. In fact, we trialled the track data generation using the last year of the spreadsheet model. And we have used that for real. So our track submission this year, which will be made in January like the rest of you, that track submission will be based on time data generated by the spreadsheet model, and that facility has now been rolled forward into the web-based WAMS system. So the WAMS system, it was populated with data for this academic year, this financial year, depending on how you see it. The initial workload was allocated to staff, and it's been live from the end of July. So staff can access their own workload and look at their workload. In fact, 24/7, they can wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and with whatever web-based system they've got, or whatever device they've got, they can just have a little check of their workload before, reassured, they go back to sleep, or otherwise. Okay. Just a couple of slides on what we've done with the workload. I'll cover this quickly because it kind of rightly Alistair has covered some of this already. Actually, I should have mentioned before we got this far. We've got the UWE slogan down here, "Better Together." Alistair reminded me that this is actually the slogan for those who are not in favour of Scottish independence. So it's not meant as a political slogan. It wasn't put there just to annoy Alistair. But we were there first before they decided it was better together. It doesn't mean we're kind of unionists or whatever. It just means we think it's better together. Sorry, I've completely lost myself now. Okay, so the benefits, as has already mentioned, fairer, but also I think transparent and UWE-wide. This we see as real benefits. I've already spoken to a couple of people this morning that said, yes, we use workload model, but we've got 8 schools and we've got 10 versions of the workload model operating in different ways. We used to be a bit like that. We used to have models dotted around at least in a couple of faculties, but that decision was taken to go for a UWE-wide model. The benefits, again, Alistair sort of said this, but human resources are our most costly and our most important asset, including the academic resources. And so it's a way of managing the major resource cost and allocating that across and managing it across our key activities, teaching, research, knowledge exchange, etc., which allows us to align the deployment of those resources, align them with the objectives of the grand objectives of the university, if you like, but also at a finer grain within faculties and departments. Particular benefits that emerge, it allows us to identify individuals who are over or under committed and to address those issues, and also it identifies departments or subject areas that are under or over committed, and we've actively used that as a way of managing our resources. So we've used that to guide areas where we need to get, where there is a strong case for putting in additional resources. And if you had our Executive Dean for the Faculty of Environment and Technology, he would say he's been able very effectively to argue for recruiting, I think, 30 or 40 additional staff, specifically into areas within his faculty where the workload model was demonstrating, even at a level of evidence required by the Vice-Chancellor's executive, that they had to be more resources put into those areas. Okay, so that's some of the benefits. At a slightly more fine-grained area, more at a sort of project-type area, we've got onto some other to address other issues. For example, we looked at, within UWE, at our own institutionally owned funded research, to use track language, and particularly PGR, and we found we were well out of line with our benchmark group, particularly on PGR. It identified those issues, but particularly the workload model has allowed us to manage down the resources and to focus those resources according to our priorities. It allowed us to review the academic management roles and the cost and distribution of those, and again to manage those down and to come to a sense of equity of distribution of those across the university. We're involved in a project to cost postgraduate taught activities. You can get into quite fine-grained activity analysis. We were thinking about what is the role of the professoriate across the university. What are they spending their time on? We can pull out from the workload model a very detailed breakdown of what all our professors are doing across the university, how it varies across different faculties and departments. Many of you may be involved with Athena Swan and promoting and supporting women's research careers, particularly in the STEM subjects. The workload model allows us to do a gender split of activities and therefore to address and identify and start to address some of those issues. And then, not least, at the bottom there, generates track data. Just in terms of track time data, and I think Ian Dufty, I think, is here somewhere, who's our expert on track. So any tricky questions on that later on, I'll be pointing to Ian, who's been heavily involved again with the team, making sure we get this right. All activities within the workload model, within the WAM system, have been mapped onto track categories. And that includes funded research, which has been tagged by funder and therefore into the detailed track categories. But it runs in the background. It's invisible to staff using the workload model. It's invisible to managers, but it produces at the end of the day the track time data. Confirmation of workload is an issue which we've discussed at some length with KPMG and have had guidance from them. So the confirmation and the sign-off has been built into the system. We've completed an audit, or KPMG completed an audit and gave us an almost clean bill of health, one or two wrinkles still to sort out, but effectively we've got a 3/4 of a tick for our system of track compliance. I was asked at one of our workshops for five key points that are important for implementation, so I came up with a list of 13 in the end. I've narrowed it back down to 9. I won't pick out all of these because, again, Alistair picked out some of them. The senior management commitment mentioned. Having an interdisciplinary cross-university team was very important. Workload model bears on all aspects of the university. You need to involve all of the academic faculties and departments, but also it's HR, it's finance, it's IT, it's business information. So you need to get a buy-in from across all of those teams to develop and to implement, particularly a consistent UWE-wide or university-wide model. Some of the other things we've covered. I think the second to last point there, strong academic management. What we've I suppose we were aware of it. What we've discovered is really crucially important is that the workload model is only a tool, and what's crucial for making it work is good academic management in the faculties. So the people who are allocating workload, talking to staff, having the two-way discussions, that's the crucial part of the process. And I don't think we got that right, or we didn't have that right at the start. We've gone through at least a couple of waves of development and support and training for managers. So it's been a real spur to improve the quality and focus of our management. The professional support structure, we call them business partners. In effect, they're faculty business managers, have also been absolutely crucial to the process. one in each faculty. I think we've got a couple are here with us today, and Paul Cotter will be talking in a moment, who manages that group. Absolutely critical. The system, the whizzy IT stuff, great, but the people who sit around that, or run around it, I should say, making it work, wrong button, are absolutely crucial. Also, a single model, no variants for faculties, no variants for departments, absolutely crucial. We do look at cases for different treatment. We have a governance group that looks at those cases. Some of those are based on professional bodies that require particular staff-student ratios or particular requirements. But in general, and we can also alter the tariffs if there is a reasoned, evidenced case as to why there should be a deviation from the model. But in general, we've tried to keep to the standard model. I think there used to be a bank that likes to say yes. This group is known as the group that likes to say no, and then works out why it said no. But very important to avoid a proliferation of different approaches. And then those of you who've thought about workload models, do you try and plumb it into all your other systems? So do you try to plumb it into your HR systems, into your timetabling, into your finance? We took the approach, no, it should be freestanding, but then you have to have the interfaces. If it's freestanding, it makes it, first of all, it's easier to build. It's more flexible. Getting systems to talk to each other is, as you know, a nightmare. But also, crucially, in terms of the transferability agenda, if we designed a system which plugged into all the UWE systems, you couldn't really plug it out and hope that it would fit in someone else's system in a different university. That illustrates the workload model with all the information that needs to feed into it, information on academic staff, student numbers, management roles, the business managers, the faculty managers. In effect, they manage this flow of information into the workload model. More on that in a second. Just coming to the end of my bit. Some of the issues that remain. I think still working on some aspects of what I've called the human infrastructure as opposed to the systems infrastructure. Those issues around line management, consistency of process. So we've got 60 people also allocating workload to staff in different subject areas. They're working within a structure of 15 departments and heads of department, but trying to ensure consistency of practice and quality of practice is an issue. It's not popular with all staff, as you might imagine. Some staff feel micromanaged. They feel it's a lack of trust to have this sort of system managing their workload. So there are cultural issues. Some staff, on the other hand, they look for workload recognition for answering each individual email or travelling between sites of the university. We've resisted that kind of micro allocation. At the same time, you tend to hear more from those who are not completely in favour of the model, shall we say. There are many staff who say, actually, it's really fair, it's really useful, it means I know where I am, and for the first time I believe there's equity and transparency in relation to workload. So we've had a lot of positive feedback as well. There is an issue, once you've identified over or under allocation, particularly at the level of individual staff, what do you do about it? I won't elaborate on that, but you will be able to think. You'll know what I mean by that. What do you do about it? How effectively do you manage that? It opens up a whole range of challenges for HR and for management. Also, last slide. A lot of that gets reinforced by the staff union. We've had, although we're successfully operating the model for the 4th year, we have to keep reminding ourselves. We also have ongoing discussions with UCU over things like, is the 550 a target or a ceiling? There are activities, it's claimed, are not included in the model. They say this isn't included. We say yes, it is. It's in here in this general bag. They say that we don't get enough time for this activity, and we say, well, we've looked at it and we think it's fair, and we've looked at other institutions and it looks up. So there's sorts of discussions that go on. There is a danger of micromanagement. There's a danger that we will get drawn into micromanagement or adding in too many things to the model. It's much better to have some catch-all buffers and to say, no, it's caught within the broad headings. And I think, as Alistair hinted, once you can measure these things and they can be looked at and compared and so forth, the workload model becomes a lightning rod for all sorts of issues of management arguments about overall workload, parity or lack of it. I think there's an it missing from the end there. But at the end of the day, WAMS itself is on track, it's well used, the system is very popular. People might not like the model so much, but the actual system is very popular.